I'm Frank.
I'm Mikey.
I'm Gerard.
I'm Ray.
And we're My Chemical Romance. Our last record came out 4 years ago, but we toured on it for 2. After we got done touring on Black Parade, we took about, I'd say like 6 to 7 months to ourselves just to kind of regain that affirmation of why you love doing this so much, you know, kind of live real life again. Some of us got married, some of us had kids, you know. And then we got together and we recorded a song for a movie called Watchmen. And we did a Bob Dylan cover. We did Desolation Row. And that got us back in the studio and juices started to get flowing again. Felt good to be, you know, playing with each other again. We at that point, I think we wanted to get into the studio just to make music again. Because of, you know, the work that went into Black Parade and the amount of touring we did on it, and you know, putting on a show every, like that theatrical show every night, because we played the record front to back for 2 years. You know, it was costumes, it was set pieces, like it was very much a traveling circus almost. So when thinking about that, we kind of decided, all right, well, the next record we're not going to do any of that. You know, it's going to be completely differently. The only way we can keep doing this is if we do something completely different. We decided what the record was going to be, and then went in to make the record. And that was a couple months down the line. You know, we just started to ended up running out of time. We got into the mixing process, and we had this record that was what we had set out to make, but it wasn't what we wanted the next record to be. You know, it was like, oh, well, is this who we want to be for the next 2 years touring on this? And, you know, I think it was an overwhelming no from the band. So we took a break from the mixing process, and then I went back into the studio. We met up with Rob Cavallo, who ended up being free again, he produced our last record, and we just started to write songs. You know, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to do a record again, we're going to add to this. We didn't know what it was. We just started to write songs. And 4 songs in, it was one of those things where like, wow, these 4 songs are better than anything we had done in the past year.
We were in the right minds, I think, to do it, and emotionally, we were in such a better place when we started with Rob.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That played a lot into it.
Rob brings the best out of us. He really does. The thing about Rob Cavallo is he's so challenging, but none of it's ever negative. You know, he's always really almost daring you to be better than you've ever been. And I think what he always wants out of an artist is for them to just be the best them they can be. But that changes every time you make a record. You have to be more daring. You have to be more free. You have to do the scary things. You know, I think the scariest stuff to us arguably ended up being the best stuff on the record, depending on how you look at it. You know, things like Planetary or Sing, those things get the biggest response live, you know. That, I mean, he always plays piano for us in certain things. He could play almost every instrument. He has this vast wealth of musical knowledge, and he's an extremely positive guy.
I think, you know, another great thing about him as a producer, you know, he kind of knows when to get involved and, you know, kind of get up in your mix, and then sometimes it's as simple as him asking a lyric question you know, kind of what are you trying to say with this song, and he lets you figure out the answers. You know, and I think that's super, super important for a band to kind of discover where they want to go on their own partially, because you know, then it's not your record anymore. It's like, you know, someone telling you what to do. You know, Rob definitely does not take that approach. Like, he lets the band be who they are, and like you said, just be the best.
It's interesting that it ended up on Danger Days, Vampire Money, because
We didn't do it for it.
we didn't do it. It had
was
nothing
just
to do
fun,
with Danger Days, but in the end, it had everything to do with Danger Days, because making Danger Days was the middle finger. Like, it was, and that song made us feel so free again. I think it was the second or third one that we did, but it really kick-started it again, and we felt like kids again. And we recorded it completely live, and we destroyed this control room. And I always feel bad for Doug, who was the engineer, because it just shit was everywhere, and it was getting like super trashed.
I think that's the second take too.
Yeah,
that take is the second time we played the song together.
Yeah, but in the end, like, it's not a concept record. The only high concept is this pirate radio station in 2019 versus this mega corporation. And I think in doing the record, we realized that sometimes you can be the corporation as well. Like, you could be good, you could be evil. Like, who's the good guys? There's no good guys, no bad guys. So. You know, I think the big thing that I've noticed is we're there for each other. That's the most important thing. We really, you know, everybody's got good days and bad days, but you could, you know, we know each other so well now, being a band 10 years, you could pick up when somebody's having a bad day and you just kind of give them a little extra. Or you back off, like, depending on, like, if somebody just needs to decompress. A lot of that's what it is. But, you know, for the most part, it's good work. Like, we're doing the good work. Like, we're fighting the good fight. So nothing's ever really bad. If it's bad, we just walk out of it. And I think the biggest thing the band learned how to do is say no. So that gives you this great ability to get yourself out of situations you just don't want to be in. It's weird because we don't think of it as marketing at all. But we like to come up with how the music is going to be presented or injected or whatever it's going to, you know, however it's going to get to the listener or the viewer. It's usually both at the same time, an audio and a visual. But we then do work with, like, whoever is, you know, we work with in marketing, depending on which territory, and we just talk about these things, you know, and because it's fun for us to come up with fake corporations and, you know, that stuff's just really fun.
Yeah.
It's all part of the, you know, the artistic vision.
I mean, you know, Frank and Mikey and G2 are super involved, even like with like the merch designs, and it can be something as, you know, minute as like changing a shade of a color, but it makes all the difference because it makes it better. There's definitely like a high quality standard that we all put on things. We had put out we wanted the special edition of the record, and you know, we had gotten versions of these laser guns that were included in the package, and they weren't good enough, so we put it on hold and waited till they were done right. Kids had to wait a couple of months, but I think they got a better product in the end. So, you know, quality control from internal in the band is always like utmost important. And it's another way to be creative. You know, writing music is its own thing, and then also doing the videos and everything else is like, it's a ton of fun too.
I think, you know, musically we have a lot of different influences. Visually, same thing. Everything from Bowie to Queen to everything else. So, but we always try to kind of set the tone for what it's going to be. We feel like we're very forward thinking in that way. So, you know, it's kind of interesting when the emo thing even came up because it had nothing to do with what we looked like during Parade, but all of a sudden that became emo. So then when we worked on this one, it was almost like, oh, now it must mean colored hair and muscle cars. It's, you know, it's just like we're always doing something completely different than anybody else visually and musically. But reinventing is of the utmost importance because, again, that's how you want to spend the next 2 years, the adventure you want to go on. We spent a lot of time working that stuff out, and again, because we know each other so well, sometimes, you know, I'll do the costumes, but I'll think about them deeply. I'll think about each guy, and then try to make sure that the costume is right. And then we do a fitting or something, and then they will, you know, contribute to what that final product is going to be, like what they're really wearing, because they got to live in it. You know, we did a lot of adjustments with Colleen Atwood this time and changing from the original drawings to what it ended up being.
Mm-hmm. We're actually planning ourselves, like even in those videos and stuff like that, it's like, all right, what would you be doing
it's an extension
in like,
of
in that environment, in that world? That's your pistol, man. That's what you have inside that, you know, you have to defend basically. You know, art and what we do is what's going out there and changing the world. It's going out there and fucking things up, you know. That's why I think, you know, it was so important for us to do this record correctly. You know, art has to be paramount. Otherwise, if you compromise that stuff, then everything else doesn't mean anything.